Um, okay, sure.
I just started. I didn't realize I hadn't recorded
Oh,
yet.
no.
So
No
we're
worries.
in, but we're good. We're here.
No worries, no worries. Then her second round of inspiration came from when she, got out of the United States and went over to Europe, like a lot of American artists had to do at that time. America simply was not ready for their revolutionary vision and work. So they went to Europe, and the Europeans were like, ah! And that established her as, as an international star. But here's why. Because when she went to Europe, she was able then to go into the museums, and she was able to look at classical art and sculpture and architecture, and she was able to really feel into what the Greeks first articulated in terms of harmony, proportion, the golden mean, the projection of humanity onto the divine, because that's part of what the Greeks contributed to the bedrock of Western civilization, right? The Greeks were the first ancient civilization to recast the deities, the gods, in human image, right? And so that was a cultural leap, because it recognized that within each one of us, there's this divine potential that we can reach towards. And then, of course, their arts recorded that and left that behind for us. Now, with the Greeks, there's a lot of deconstruction to do. We all know that. Yashe and I, we've had numerous in-depth discussions about how, Greek culture was also a culture of conquest and rape, and a conversion of the energy of earlier civilizations that had been conquered. And I think for women like us, we can hold that. We can go to Delphi, for example, and we can say, yes, I am here at the Temple of Apollo, but I also reach through that veil into the bosom of Yea and recognize, the force that inspired this articulation. So we have that capability. But what we also have with, studying Isadora and how she used this exposure and this love affair that she had with classical Greek mythos and art, is that we have so much gorgeous imagery to draw from. We have the inspiration of what the Greeks articulated through their art, really quite powerful embodiments of natural laws like proportion. One of the things that Isadora said also that I really, really love in terms of embodiment is, she said, never confuse symmetry with harmony. And if you, so one of the things that we work with, for example, is just a simple way of standing or being, that I stand in a Botticelli so that my body is in a wave-like pattern. That is the most natural way of being, right? And so if you think about Botticelli's Venus, she's not standing there like this. She's not doing position number 1 from ballet, right? She is right there. So you see here, I've got symmetry. Here I've got harmony and proportion, right? And so simple little embodiment techniques like that, the universal gesture, which is like a little movement prayer that we always do when we practice Duncan dance, just reaching down into the earth, inhaling up through the body, and then exhaling out through the crown, connecting. I bring earth current energy up through my body, and then I exhale that out into the universe. It is remarkably connecting. It's integrating, and there's so much beauty behind it. And I think, hers was an unfinished life because of her tragic death. And, the work that she left behind, for me, it was like the little Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs to something much deeper. So having gone to New York numerous times to study Duncan, and then, I started organizing for some of the big teachers outside of the United States. I would bring them to Brazil, and where I was living for a long time. I would practice certain movements, and then, it came to me that the movement is a metaphor, and that's, one of the things that she said is she said that the true feminine movement is movement that begets movement. And so that because of the fact that in nature and the way that the universe works, the universe is in perpetual motion, She said that the wave-like pattern is the universal movement. She said, think about it. Everything that is manifest, everything that you can see around you moves in waves. Light, sound, energy, the perpetual wave-like motion of the ocean. She said, look out over the hills. Do you not see an undulating pattern in the contour of the hills? She said, look at the herds of wild things. Do you not see an undulating pattern in the way that they, bound across the planet? And so knowing that as priestess movers, priestess dancers, our true job is to move time, space, and energy around us, to strike a chord that resonates and reverberates and that moves others. So all of this stuff registered on me very, very powerfully. And I've read her book over The Art of the Dance zillions of times. It's probably my most annotated book that I have, and then I started to delve into some of her contemporaries like Ruth St. Denis, whose work is also very, very powerful, but in a slightly different way from Isidora's. But her book is also quite powerful. It's called Wisdom Comes Dancing, and it's such a beautiful book. And there's an essay that she wrote in that book called I See America Dancing. And she said, there will come a time very soon when we will dance, not for mere mundane, profane plaudits, but our whole purpose for dance is going to change. We will be dancing to heal, bless, and inspire. And I'm really bringing that thread with me to these sessions, and hopefully to Delphi itself. And I hope that it inspires you as much as it's inspired me. So digging a little bit deeper into mythos, Isidora's second wave of work, we t-shirts that say healed. Yes, we do. Yes,
I'm
love
now
that.
like literally thinking I'm gonna make us t-shirts for when we go to Delphi. That
I
say,
love that.
heal, bless, inspire on the front, and on the back, Pythia priestess or something like that. I'm gonna look into this, and I'll do it in whatever colors we've agreed on to all wear for the thing. We're doing this. I'm so excited. I'm so inspired. At Harry Potter World, if everyone can wear t-shirts that say Family Reunion 2022 or Family Vacay, we can have t-shirts that say Priestess, Heal, Bless, Inspire.
Yay, I love that. It's so great for, I love Anik's song. Do you guys know Anik's song? We are the priestesses of old. We are remembering. I love that song.
It's such a beautiful song.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. So
I'll actually add that one to our Delphic dance compilation of videos, because we might actually want to use that song in our prayer formance.
it would be so beautiful. I think that's a gorgeous processional.
Professional, yes, I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with you.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous processional song. So just a little bit more then on, where the actual dance and embodiment technique meets mythos. Okay. I was telling you guys that Isidora's first wave of inspiration upon which she created her first body of dances with forces of nature. The second was classical Greek mythos. And this whole body of work really was born when she went to Europe for the first time. She went to Greece, she went to the Parthenon, and we're going to be in the Parthenon, which is where Isadora, she was so enthralled with the Parthenon. And back then, you could actually, sorry, I got to get a little bit more comfortable here. And kind of wiggly today.
Just today.
She was so enthralled by the Parthenon. And I think I had shown you guys in a previous session the photograph taken of Isadora by Edward Steichen in between the pillars of the Parthenon. And this is what she said. She said that day after day, she would go to the Parthenon and she would stand between the pillars with her hands right here, waiting for that flash of inspiration that would take her to the next level of this realization of mythic movement that she was searching for. And she went back day after day after day with her hands folded right here. And she said that finally one day she opened her eyes and she looked up the length of those pillars, and she noticed that they're not straight, they're sloping, and that they sort of reach towards each other, and that this slight slopiness brought forth this inner welling up from her, which was her solar plexus, and she reached up to unite with the pillars in this gesture. And she said it was at that moment that I knew that I had discovered my true dance and that it was a prayer. So again, really, really powerful stuff, activated that way at the Parthenon. And then getting into a deeper dive into mythos and then beginning to interpret certain myths that resonated with her. So for example, I think I may have put a video of the dance priestess in our folder, if I'm not mistaken. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely have a look at it, because it's taken out of the myth of Iphigenia, who was a princess, daughter of King Agamemnon, and she was to be sacrificed so that Agamemnon's fleet could make it across the ocean to Troy so that they could attack the Trojans. But Iphigenia's mother comes to her and says, "Your father is going to sacrifice you, run, run." And she says, "No, if I am to be sacrificed for the good of my nation, I go freely to the sacrifice." She lays on the sacrificial altar and poof, Artemis appears and whisks Iphigenia away and provides a stag in place of her sacrifice. I don't know if any of you are recovering Christians like I am, but theme. I sense a theme there, right? But this dance, priestess, it is to a movement from the opera Iphigenia by Wilhelm Gluck. It is a really, really powerful piece of music. And this, it's called the Processional of the Female Priests. And the movements are very, very, very Artemisian. So what happened? Isadora, she marinated in the mythos of Artemis, and the movements that came out, because they're also movements of grief, right? Their princess is about to be sacrificed, and they're taking her to her sacrifice. And so there are these movements of digging and bringing forth, and and I won't get into the technique about that here, but when you think about what the archetype of Artemis represents to us, I can also, we can watch it together if you want today. It's only 3 minutes long. If you're interested, we can watch it together.
Yes, actually, because I don't know if I have that link in our Delphic dance compilation, but I'd love to add it.
Well, let me just facilitate that. Let me go ahead and grab that off of YouTube here.
And then I can put it and share screen and we'll watch it.
Yes, here we go.
I love actually.
Sorry.
The story of Iphigenia and the whole Oresteia that goes around it, which is like multiple generations of this family, and in every generation it's the women who take care of business.
So here it is. I don't know if you guys feel like watching it now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and watch it. I will share my screen.
Okay.
Pause.
Sorry.
That's okay, I got it. I'm coming back to the beginning, and let me just hit share, and I have to optimize for video. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna go here and here. There. goodness. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And let me just go quickly and add that to, okay, our playlist, because wow.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Absolutely amazing. And I really saw, oops, sorry. I really saw in this what you were saying before of Isadora Duncan's comments about not to confuse symmetry with harmony. Because in this dance, you do see that it's harmonious, but there's a lot of asymmetrical movement. And even in the ensemble, they're not, and I think this is really important for all of us, because I know not everybody here always feels completely secure about this idea of us dancing in a group together. And sometimes you might feel a little anxious or nervous about whether you're going to be on time or in sync. But if you watch that, those women were not all doing everything in unison. They were doing it in harmony with each other. They all knew the movements, and then they let the movement guide them. So there was at different times one who would be before or after, but I never got a sense watching that it was out of harmony. You know,
Right.
this isn't like a cheerleading competition where we all have to be like, you know, doing whatever. Like, we have like a flow, and we're allowed to be in that flow. And I feel like it's really important for us to watch things like this so that we can see when this is articulated physically, that this isn't like designed for us to be like in a boot camp scenario. This is designed for us to be in a fluid movement that is harmonious. And I just felt very inspired by watching that.
I'm so glad because, you know, in terms of the technique, Duncan is a very, very open technique, you know, and it actually encourages personal expression within the different pieces. And, you know, as Duncan dancers, a lot of times at, you know, dance festivals and stuff, you know, people say, oh, you're the no technique dancer. And it's like, well, actually it transcends technique. Even Isadora said, she said, never allow technique to prevent you from dancing and from truly expressing yourself. And, you know, as I said, you know, hers was an unfinished life. Her body of work is an unfinished work. And so I feel like a lot of it was left to those of us who follow in her footsteps to articulate and, you know, to bring to the wider body of dancers. You know, I presented at the Isadora Duncan's symposium at Georgetown University in 2013. And mine was the first paper on Duncan technique to go there, to say, this is ceremonial dance. This is the potential of this dance. And if we just take it one step further, we could be doing much more with this idiom than being beautiful museum pieces dancing in Central Park for wealthy, erudite people to go, oh, how lovely, darling, you know, because it's true. Sometimes Duncan dance has this, and it's funny how ballet doesn't have this. But, you know, people say, oh, Duncan, oh, that's a bit erudite, isn't it, darling? You had to have studied the classics. And it's like, well, you know what? Some of us study the classics. Some of us find inspiration in the classics. Some of us find a portal to the universal through the classics. We don't stop at the classics, right? That is a portal for us. And I remember when we were working on this dance, that was, those were some of the dancers from my Sao Paulo Isadora Duncan studies group. So you notice these movements, right? The digging and the bringing forth. So what we looked at, what turned it from a performance into a prayerformance, is that when we worked on that dance, and I think we worked on it for a few months, I structured it in such a way that each woman looked back on her life and thought about a time when she had to make an ultimate sacrifice. She had to dig deep within herself and bring something up to sacrifice it for that greater good. So those of you that have been in some of the movement classes, you could see that we were doing the gift, that processional movement, you know, and so that's what made it so authentic for everyone, you know. And the part that you didn't see is that the whole audience was in tears afterwards. The whole audience was in tears, and people had to have a minute. Like after that dance, people were just like, okay, like they got it, you know. And then the simple use of technique. We've talked about this before in the movement parts of this work. I get the movement ready on the in-breath, and then I deploy the movement on the out-breath. Simple, but absolutely profound. When I exhale, those molecules that come out of me are imbued with my intention. And then you breathe them in. And so it's real, you know? And we really worked that. We really worked that. And then you could see at the end how, you know, I mean, I was Iphigenia, right? You know, and that they ultimately, they welcomed me to the other side, but, you know, and then, but it wasn't without, you know, that final human sadness, like, you know, yeah, when we reach towards the superhuman part of us, that's when the human part of us is all often also like, hi, remember me, sadness, longing, you know, all of that. So anyways, there's a whole body of work there. There's beautiful movement around Aphrodite. And, you know, those of us who are Aphrodite identified, there's beautiful, powerful movement around Athena, around standing in that warrior spirit of determination and championship and heroism, right? There's beautiful movement around that. There's beautiful movement around Hera. Beautiful movement around higher purpose, self-coronation, sovereignty, you know. And in studying the repertory, I started to pull those things out. I'm like, this has got to dance, you know, this has got to dance. You see how she interpreted Artemis and Artemis-oriented movement in that piece. I'll drop some more links in there. There's also like, there's the Dance of the Furies. Oh, my lower spine. No, Carrie, to answer your question in the simplest way, no, because here again, this is the difference between performance and prayerformance. It is the intention, is the prayerful intention that drives the movement. And when we're dancing in an ensemble way too, this is why it's critical for us to get together, even this way, because we can still connect this way. You know, each one of us contributes to the field within that dance, like our presence, our intention, our togetherness, you know, we're all contributing to the field. So when I'm dancing in an ensemble way, in this way, in a prayerformance way, it's not about me. It's about the egregore that we've created together, that field that we've woven together, that unspoken communication. That's a big thing that I work in my regular classes about that too. Nonverbal communication, that unspoken, like I grok you, like you're there, you know, because sometimes, you know, in prayerformance too, and I've seen it happen, like somebody will get a download. And, you know, if you're going about it in a performance kind of way, like, oh, that's outside the choreography. Oh, now what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? then you freak out. But if you're doing it in a prayer formance kind of way, truthfully, we're all priestessing each other inside that prayer formance. So if somebody brings a download, then you are allowing yourself to be drawn in support of the expression of that download, you know?
And may I just add a quick, because I think this is valuable. So this past weekend, several of the priestesses of the Mount Shasta Goddess Temple all converged for the first time in person. We'd never all been in person before to do a ritual. And it was the opening ritual for this big festival. So we, wanted to be on point. So while we were rehearsing our rehearsal, we had 1 hour, 9 women had 1 hour to rehearse for this ritual, but we had done some of this ahead of time like this. And one of the women, and this is to you, to your question, Carrie, one of the women in our group has really bad rheumatoid arthritis and a lot of pain and limited range of movement. And so during this ceremony, we had these little lanterns and we were remembering the spirits of those who have been lost during the past 3 years when we were not able to come together. And I took 5 minutes and I just showed them the priestess walk that Sophia has showed us, where you just step and then pull your foot gently and step and pull your foot gently. And I said, this is something we're learning in Delphic dance as we process around the room with these lanterns. If you can incorporate this physically, it will be really beautiful. And I just wanted to share with you the photo of this priestess with the rheumatoid arthritis. You can just even see in the photo how beautiful she is, how confidently she's carrying herself. It was women of all shapes, sizes, ranges of movement, abilities. And that's the spirit that Sophia and I are creating this with too, is that there can be this beauty in our diverse ability and our diverse range. So I just wanted to reassure you, Carrie, that I actually literally just did this with a woman who has something like this, with a woman who has a limited range of movement. And she was brilliant. And she felt so good. She felt so confident. We did this in front of, 70 people, and she was not nervous. And just, it was gorgeous. So I wanted to just presence that.
I'm so glad that you brought that, because when I was going back and forth to New York for, to study with Lori Bellylove and company, all of our classes, it was us women, experienced dancers like me. We always had children and we always had elders in class. Always, because yeah, Carrie, I mean, exactly. And that's what we've really been, emphasizing that theme today. So, so I'm glad that you, reinforce that. So yes, so the gesture, it could be a mere gesture, but it is all intention driven. It is all driven by the story. It's driven by, in our case now, the mythos. So honing in on Delphi and the mythos of Delphi and the wells of mythos that we are going to drink from. This is a sacred place that for generations was considered the center of the classical world. This is where folks went to not only seek advice from the Pythia, but I really believe that because the main maxim, that main edict is know thyself, I find that, like for me, Delphi is a place I go for initiation, and know thyself is to me, it's the divine saying, hey, good to see you. What you got? What are you bringing me? You know, and this is where, like, you know, well, here's what I've brought. Here's what I've brought. Here is how I am meeting you for my initiation, you know? And so, yes, we've got Apollo, god of music, god of healing, god of inspiration. We've got the muses, daughters of Zeus and the goddess of memory, who are essentially, for me, you know, they're the embodiments of human culture. If they are these archetypes of human culture, and clearly, you know, from a classical Greek lens, you know, we've got the muse of history, we've got the muse of epic poetry, we've got the muse of astronomy, we've got the muse of dance, we've got the muse of the priestess arts, polyhymnia. We've got the muse of love poetry, you know, and those were things that, you know, were certainly very, very central to the Greek way of life and the way that the Greeks perceived themselves and the way that the Greeks wove their own history, right? But they're kind of like threads. So, you know, Yeshe has talked a lot about Yea and the land there. And how many of you have been to Delphi before? So you have felt the magic of that land there. That land is just brimming with magic and power. And so that presence is so profound there, so that it's like, it's no wonder to me that they chose it as a temple site, you know, for the god of inspiration, you know, also Athena, also Dionysus.
And you know, one of the things that isn't really talked about very much is that the original oracle there presided from the Corycian cave and offered messages to the people. You didn't need an appointment. You didn't need to go through all the purification rites. You just showed up and she just oracled. And then later, when she moved out of the cave, she moved to a stone and she would sit on top of a stone. And now when you walk the Pilgrim's Way up to what then became the Temple of Apollo, at the time, before there was a Temple of Apollo, the Pythia just presided from sitting atop this big natural stone and gave oracles. And again, you didn't need an appointment. You didn't need priests to interpret it for you. There was no male involvement, no male, what's the word, modification, you know, or insertion into the process. And now, you know, we hear a lot more about like the priests and the structure that was Hellenistic, but the root of it is women doing what women have just always done, speaking truth, sitting around in natural places, speaking truth. And so it is this, you know, kind of important thing to feel that part too. And then as we process through, and I think, you know, Sophia, you've described it so eloquently, that as we accept the fact that, you know, dominator historically colonizing cultures have existed everywhere, and it doesn't mean that they don't create some things of beauty, and it doesn't mean that there isn't value. We can hold both. But yeah, when you're there, when I was there, it was like so clear to me that this was a place where the earth spoke to her children through the voice of a priestess, and that later insertions of other meanings don't render that less meaningful. It's just that, you know, you see the progression of history through it, but that's why for me, Yea is so important. And in our last discussion, I just want to quickly get a little show of hands because I'm taking notes for my notes. I think that Caragwin and I both felt really strongly called to working with Yea. And Sophia, you mentioned really strongly feeling that call to working with Apollo. And Carrie mentioned that strong calling to working with Hera, and we have two others, which you mentioned, Athena, and then also Dionysus was at the space. So I'm wondering if there's anyone here who's feeling that maybe I haven't heard from yet, who's feeling like, I will speak for Athena, or I will speak for Dionysus. Is there anybody who's got that call?
You know, at first I thought I felt called to Yea, but now I think it would feel like, woo, really sort of having a little more courage, but to come into Athena, I think I would love to do that. Yeah.
Oh,
I would
wonderful.
really.
And her temples there are amazing. She has two.
Wow.
There's the small one on the oracular site, and then there's an enormous one down in the valley below that is, you'll have a lot of support for that. Awesome. Good. Okay, so I'm just going to note you. And of course, I know some of these things may change as we go through, but we're getting kind of close. So we want to lock in. And then I hadn't heard, yeah, Devana, go ahead.
I think I may have missed this in the last meeting that you had, the discussion meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just coming to it now. I was thinking, just in terms of what we had talked about a month ago, that actually the muse Urania worked for my my maxim, which is choose what is divine. So I'm kind of feeling like, yeah, like Urania is a good channel for me.
And we're all going to have a muse, but we're also going to have a deity.
Okay, so what is Artemis taken?
Well, Artemis isn't sort of traditional to the space. I'll give you the list again.
Great.
It was Yea, and I can also move if someone else feels called to Yea. I can also move because I could really also go with Dionysus. But Yea, Apollo, Hera, Athena, and Dionysus are the ones that had really primary shrines and roles at Delphi.
To Dionysus.
Okay, great. Good. Okay, wonderful. So this is great too, because Shoshana is also working with choose what is divine. And I see a great balance here of between those two maxims and how Dionysus interprets choose what is divine versus how Athena interprets choose what is divine. I see really beautiful kind of kind of like, what's the word? Like balance to that. Yeah, go ahead, Caragwin.
So I have number 49 too, which is choose what is divine. My question is,
really liked that one.
Do we need to all have different, because I was also going to honor Yea. And so it's like, do we have to all be different or we can have the same ones?
I think if you feel called to have whatever one you feel called to have, it's fine. You know,
Okay.
In my original vision, we all picked a different one, but I've tried to steer everybody to different things. And so far that hasn't worked. So I'm trusting the process of people just going where they feel called. Yeah, go ahead, Devana.
I actually was thinking that I might look at some of the other ones, and just knowing now that there are 3 of us with that maxim, I think I have a couple others that I was sort of toying with. So let me dig in a little deeper, because I think I might find a more complementary one. So,
and especially now that you know you're working with Dionysus, there may be a particularly Dionysian one about pleasure and joy that you would love to embody. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sophia, for letting me jump in there on that, because I've been just kind of percolating on these things.
No, I think it's essential. And I'm so glad that we are having these meetings on a regular basis because, you know, one of the things that I do in my own retreats around this work is, yes, we do have a prayer formance to which we, you know, we dedicate when we, we invite people to it and so on and so on. But I also love to have psychodrama just within ourselves, within our own group, so that we can occupy and embody those deities and forces and muses that we're bringing, and then meet in the middle of the circle. So Devana, the fact that you are identifying with Dionysus and I'm identifying with Apollo, we could come together, for example, in psychodrama, and we can illustrate, because it's the partnership between Dionysus, static, and Apollo, the
Statesman.
inspirational and rational and, methodical, let's say. That is the recipe for Greek drama. That is the recipe for dramatic tension. It is the fulcrum that moves all Greek tragedy, right? And I think that could be very powerful.
Another thing that doesn't get talked about very often is that you only visited the oracle at Delphi during the summer months and the waxing portion of the year. She wasn't actually available usually in the darker half of the year. And the focus of the entire sanctuary shifted to Dionysus in the dark half of the year. And over the years, there were a number of Pythias who spoke for Apollo, and then other priestesses on site who were dedicated to Dionysus. There was one notably who was written about, I think it was by Pausanias, who was dedicated to them both, and her name was Clea. And Clea had, it was so unique that there would be a priestess who would hold both of those energies that she actually got written about. And she's actually one of the ancestresses in my personal pantheon. I've been working with her for a number of years as bringing forward my priestess self. And it's really the way that it's been interpreted, and we have our own interpretations, but that she was able to hold that balance for the entire sanctuary. And so I love the idea of having the priestess of Apollo, the priestess of Dionysus. I love that Hera and Athena provide a kind of a complementary energy to Yea, who's more the wild, whereas Athena and Hera are more the structured, the polis of the polis, and Yea is more of the wild. So I feel like this is really exciting. When you said the word psychodrama, I almost had a heart attack because those two words are scary together. But I know what you mean when you say ritual, like a ritual drama that's going on within us.
Yes, all of the above, and something that I truly believe, and I'm putting this out there to you guys with an open heart too. When we do this work, we're not only healing ourselves, we're also healing the archetype. And within that space of transpersonal healing, this is where our own personal transformation is rooted much deeper, and it also has the potential to ripple out much farther too. Because for me, prayer formance, as I said, yes, I'm doing it, but it's not about me. It's about, how can the transpersonal healing that I experience within the prayer formance, how can that ripple out into the world? And so the fact that so many of you are being drawn to Yea, I think it's a super, super powerful thing. We could enact within the psychodrama, and remember, psychodrama is for us, that it's between us and the archetypes. So we invoke the archetypes, we bring them there. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll create we'll co-create stations in the circle, and you can switch archetypes. Like you can go sit in Yea's corner if you feel that she's calling to you to be her oracle. You can go sit in Apollo's corner. You know, you can switch out, you know, and we could even enact a dialogue between Yea and this other round of deities and Olympians. And just, you know, Devana, you brought up Artemis earlier. You know, she's Apollo's twin sister. Who's to say she's not invited to the party? You know, I know that she's not traditionally enshrined there, but I think, you know, with psychodrama, you know, it's an enactment for healing. So I just really wanted to put that out there, you know.
You know,
I think
just so you know, Sophia, too, because our temple has a kind of a teaching about how all this functions. And I just want to be clear here. When we work with deities in our temple, we don't really work with them as archetypes. We work with them as actual living, real beings that have sentience. And so when we're presencing them, we're actually doing transpossession and allowing them to come in. It's so when we're doing this, if we're doing it in a dramatic way, I totally see what you mean by working archetypally. If we're talking about invocation, we're talking about actually calling a living being and inviting them to sit upon the throne of our own bodies. And some people are more comfortable with that, and some people are less comfortable with that, of course, you know, and it takes a lot of training to be able to really do that and stay sane. You know, so it is just important to note that as we go into this and how we set this up, that we want to just pay attention to the many different approaches to deity work that might be present here.
yeah, we've clearly got a lot of layers here. But yes, I know, let's see, just having a look at the time here. We've got a half an hour left. How would we be best served with this last half hour here? Would you like to do some movement?
Yes. I do have a very hard stop today at 3 o'clock my time, 12 o'clock West Coast time.
Step two,
So, you know, but I think we should move.
Great. So let me just quickly. I want to just do a quick test here. I'm going to play some music. Can you let me know, like, give me a signal if you're hearing the music right now? Okay. Maybe do you guys want to test your own volume on your own computers?
It's better now that you turned it up.
Okay. So is the music, are you feeling that the music is in balance with my my voice? You can hear me just fine? Okay, great. Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and maximize my screen here. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you're in a good spot to move around and you can see well, or if you need another moment to just get properly situated, that's also fine. The applause is right there, isn't it? Sorry, I wanted to get my cord out of the way there. Fantastic.
I'm having a hard time hearing your voice over the music when you stepped away.
Yeah, same. And also you froze a little second.
Sorry, I've got a crappy internet connection here today because it's raining. So can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Let's pass our weight to one side here and bring in your legs into a Botticelli. It's like the heel kind of kisses the other heel. And inhale and exhale and just come into this gentle wave-like pattern here. Just a wave-like stance. That's it. Inhale, exhale. It's bringing it up. It's quite relaxed. And then it's good. So from this position here, I want us to just explore the solar plexus, okay? So here's your solar plexus. You know, and if you put your fingers right here, you can feel the cartilage, you can feel that there's a ganglion here, you can feel that there's an energy source here, right? So this is what projects when we inhale. I inhale and I project forward from there. And you see how my gesture is aligned with my sight, right? So if I bring my hands right here and I start to tip upwards, inhaling through the solar plexus, and I exhale here, this is a gesture of having just offered a gift. I'm bringing my gift, and when I exhale, I release that gift into the universe. And it all works with the solar plexus. So let's imagine this. This is a wonderful way to work on this. I am going to pierce a source of energy that's right in front of me. And I'm going to inhale, 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 and I'm going to radiate outwards from the solar plexus. And then I'm going to exhale, and I'm going to bring it in. And when I bring it in, it's actually coming out the other side, because this is also your solar plexus. This is also your solar plexus, right? So we think of it in all of these different dimensions. Our model for working with the solar plexus is the victory of Samothrace. So this is what inspired Isadora. Do you see how her energy is really, it's like a liftoff. Like you look at the whole line of her body. It's like a liftoff, isn't it? So I'd love for you to think of your solar plexus that way too. When we're together in person, we'll do deeper work from the solar plexus. So we've got, if you have a sun right in front of you and you want to pierce that sun, and you're inhaling, 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 you're inhaling that sun into yourself and you're shining with it. Oh, and then you bring that light in. You are working outer universe, taking the universe in, really working with that radiation. You see that? Bringing it through to a gift. So this gift now, it's going to accompany the tilting upwards of the solar plexus. And you are bringing your gift to the divine. And then when you exhale, it's like millions of stars come out your fingertips. Bringing it back in. And you see where the gesture is right underneath your breasts, isn't it? Right underneath your breasts. And, you know, and this is the genius of Isadora too. She brings the gesture under the breasts, because what are the breasts? This is the ultimate nourishing energy of a woman, isn't it? And we locate our intention right here. So this is where my sacred intention is. This is my sacred gift. And as I inhale, I lift it upwards towards the divine. but I'm also, I never lose eye contact with it. So do you see how this is my angle right here? It's not up here, it's right here. So it's a very human angle. I'm looking at that gift. And this is what it looks like with the procession. And let's inhale. Exhale and let gravity take you. Inhale up, bring earth current energy up through your body. Exhale. Connect to the universe. And now let's inhale up. Inhale up. Exhale. Open the curtains. Behind the curtains is the sun. Inhale up towards the sun. Grab the sun's face and bring that energy down into your body vessel. So I have connected to sky source. And I connect earth source. That source comes up through me. And the priestess connects also to sky source. Open. Grab a thunderbolt. Grab a thunderbolt. Pop. Inhale up. Open the clouds. Part the clouds. See into a higher reality. Grab a thunderbolt. Inhale. Grab a thunderbolt. Inhale more. And exhale. Bring those thunderbolts down through the body. See that? You see how the... So like this, working in this way, this is a wonderful way to connect to Yea. Let that energy well up, bubble forward. And then the sister movement, parting the veils between you and a higher, nobler version of you that is manifesting in the here and now. Parting the veils between you and higher knowledge that's waiting to come through, a message of the soul that's waiting to come through. Parting the veils between you and those thunderbolts are power that is waiting to manifest through you. So you see, we've got these different layers of intention that go with the movements, right? So we've really had a kind of a crash course here, you know? But I want us to just try that processional walk. I pass my way forward, and you notice how I am just pushing off with that other foot, passing the way forward, pushing off. I'd like for you to notice the wave-like pattern here. This is the secret to the beautiful, graceful walk. It's to use the wave-like pattern. So noticing, I'll do it in an exaggerated way just so that you can see that I need to go down to go up. If I need to go down down to go up. If I need to go down to go up. So allow that. Allow the wave-like pattern in your walk. The walk becomes awkward when we want to really keep our legs straight and we want to always stay lifted. Remember that the liftedness comes from a willingness to go down to come up. I go down to come up. And when you're in this position here, and you can practice the gift too, practice this walk, this processional walk of bringing your gift. And I'd like for us to try this following little meditation. Let's warm up our hands. And just like Isadora, with these activated hands, I like to place one on my heart, one on my solar plexus. I like to acknowledge that the arms and the hands are the servitors of the heart and the servitors of the intention. So I like to imagine and manifest that there is a special communication that happens now with the seat of my intention and my holy hands, and that I'm activating this inner dialogue, breathing into it, my heart, my solar plexus, and my hands that are going to carry and manifest this offering. And as you inhale into it, just let that consciousness take shape. And I'm inhaling and I'm allowing an actual shape to start forming with my hands. Imagining now that the hands are taking what's in here and starting to mold it into a shape. And I've been working with this for a while, and one of the shapes that I've come up with is this one here, because my maxim is praise hope. And so for me, this is a little lantern that I'm holding. See that? It's like a little flame, you know? So I'm imagining myself now at Delphi. I've got this flame of hope, and I'm going to offer that up now. Offering it up, and I'm surrendering it. So I encourage you to, I know we're short on time. We've got like 4 minutes left here, 6 minutes left. I encourage you to do that exercise with yourselves. When you're meditating upon your maxim, you know, activate your hands. Ask for that synapse to really happen. Bring forth what is in here, what is in the heart, and what is in the plexus, to bring that forth into physical expression, right? Work it as a practice, like let it come to you, you know, what blooms forth out of that, you know?
Yeah. Would it be wise for us to maybe think about when we do this, right? We are basically coming up with
I can't hear you for some reason, hon.
Did you not hear me? Oh,
Are you on mute?
can you hear me? Caragwen can hear me. Sophia, it sounds like maybe you're, I'll type.
I can't hear you.
No worries.
Or if it's my connection that's really crappy.
So what I was asking is, and I'll type it here.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? I think it might, okay, let me get rid of music. Let me just turn the music off and see if,
Can you hear me
I
now?
don't know.
Hmm.
Got a crap connection today. I'm really sorry about that. But does this make kind of logistical and spiritual sense to everyone and artistic sense to everyone? You know, our great ancestress, she stood like this. She stood like this in the Parthenon and waited for that gesture to happen. She said that it all came from here and that this motivated the gesture. So I invite you and encourage you to follow in her footsteps and encourage that synopsis to happen and practice this gift too. Practice this bringing forth and see where that takes you. I'm happy to drop some good musics into the file as well, so that you guys have some of this really inspiring music to work with. And
This feels like it's really coming together this time
if you
around.
like her,
It's super solid.
I love her. She is absolutely one of Isadora's muses. You know, and just think about her. Follow this line.
Thank you. Thank you so
And thank you
much.
all so much for us being together today. I'm sorry I can't hear you anymore, but
Aw,
I really enjoy our sessions and
thank you.
I wish you all a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Everybody, please remember to send a donation.
Thank you.
Sophia does
Absolutely.
this for us and it's so wonderful. And we should send her a little donation to there.
Yeah.
And I think we're each going to come up with our mudra right here. And we're going to practice priestess processional. And then we will email to get our next meeting. Okay. I'm trying to. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Thank
much. That was so
you.
beautiful. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.